The EGR cleaning system from BG Products will clean EGR passageways and restore engine performance. This procedure goes directly to the heart of the problem. It's efficient and easy to use, and it does the job. Here's how. Every EGR service should begin with a thorough testing of the mechanical, vacuum, and electrical components of the EGR system. There are many different configurations, and you'll need to follow the manufacturer's test procedures. When all components are functioning normally, you can proceed with the cleaning service. First, begin by locating the vehicle's EGR valve attached to the intake manifold. When removing the EGR valve, try not to disconnect the electrical connector to the EGR. Removing this connection will set a diagnostic code, which will need to be cleared with a scan tool. Now choose the EGR adapter plate that matches the base of the EGR valve you just removed. Then attach the vented cap to the EGR plate. Be sure to plug the EGR exhaust tube. It will be necessary to replace the EGR gasket before installing the adapter plate. Now, install the proper EGR adapter to the manifold using the bolts from the EGR valve. Before proceeding with the cleaning process, make sure the system is not completely plugged. To check for a plugged system, start the engine and listen for air entering into the vents in the cap. If there is suction, proceed with the normal service. But if no suction exists, assume the system is completely plugged. Refer to the EGR manual for specific instructions on how to unplug the system. To continue, remove the cap on the BG non-pressurized supply tool, part number 9242, and pour in 2 cans of BG ISC, part number 211. Replace the cap and open the vent valve. Be sure the ball valve on the bottom of the supply tool is closed. Now attach the supply tool hose to the vented cap on the EGR adapter plate. Start the engine first, then open the ball valve. The process will run approximately 10 minutes before the tool is empty. When the supply tool is empty, shut off the engine and allow it to cool as long as possible. Now, remove the supply tool hose and the EGR adapter plate. Carefully inspect the EGR valve before reinstalling. Be sure to use the new gasket. Certain vehicles experience problems with restricted or plugged exhaust feeder tubes. In these cases, the exhaust tube flush adapter is used with pressurized air. Do not attempt to clean the intake and exhaust side simultaneously. This may cause the catalytic converter to overheat. Service one side first and then the other. Once again, remove the EGR valve and select the proper EGR adapter plate. Then remove the plug and install the exhaust tube flush adapter to the EGR adapter plate and hand tighten. Please note, you must have either the vented or solid cap on the intake side to prevent excessive idle speed. Now, install the EGR adapter on the manifold, being certain the exhaust port in the adapter is over the exhaust port in the manifold. Next, close the ball valve on the supply tool and fill with 2 cans or 22 ounces of BGISC. Replace the cap and open the vent valve. Now, attach the supply tool to the smaller tube of the exhaust tube flush adapter. And attach pressurized air to the regulator. Start the engine and open the ball valve on the supply tool. If the engine stalls, shut off the supply tool immediately. When no more fluid is visible in the supply tool, shut off the ball valve. Then turn off the engine. To clean the intake side of the EGR, remove the pressurized air source and remove the supply tool connection from the exhaust tube flush adapter. Again, fill the supply tool with 2 cans of BGISC. Replace the cap and open the vent valve. Then, connect the supply tool to the vented cap on the EGR adapter plate. Start the engine and turn on the ball valve. After the supply tool is empty, shut off the ball valve, then shut off the vehicle's engine. The service is now complete. Always road test the vehicle after the BG EGR service to be sure no diagnostic codes have been set and to purge the manifold of any excess chemical that may have accumulated during the service. On some vehicles, the EGR valve is very difficult to reach. If the EGR is a pressure feedback system, a different approach may be used for cleaning. For example, on a Ford 3.8-liter V6, the EGR valve may be located against the firewall and is difficult to reach with a conventional method. The alternate EGR flush method begins by locating the exhaust port to the pressure feedback EGR sensor. Remove the hose. Now attach the exhaust tube flush adapter to the exhaust port using a small length of hose. Clamp all connections securely. Remove the vacuum hose from the EGR valve and connect a Mighty Vac tool or other vacuum source to the EGR valve. Fill the supply tool with 2 cans of BGISC. Now, open the vent valve. Be sure the ball valve is closed. Note, do not apply pressurized air at this time. Next, start the engine and allow it to reach normal operating temperature. Now, connect the supply tool and pressurized air to the exhaust tube flush adapter. Next, adjust the engine speed to no higher than 2,500 to 3,000 RPM. Then open the ball valve on the supply tool. Slowly engage the vacuum to open the EGR valve. Do not open the vacuum too quickly. This may cause the engine to stall. Try to apply at least 10 inches of vacuum without stalling the engine. Allow the engine to stabilize for at least 1 minute. Now, readjust the engine speed to no higher than 1,500 RPM. When the supply tool is empty, readjust the RPM to manufacturer's specifications. Now, shut off the vehicle's engine. Disconnect the exhaust tube flush adapter from the exhaust port. Then, reattach the hose to the exhaust port and the vacuum hose to the EGR valve. The final step is to road test the vehicle. Refer to the EGR manual for detailed instructions for this procedure. With careful maintenance and cleaning of the EGR systems on today's vehicles, we can take full advantage of the performance and efficiency that automakers have achieved in new engine design. BG Products will continue to develop superior products and equipment for services that contribute directly to your productivity and profitability. The new EGR service tool from BG Products. Technology for today's market from the leaders in automotive maintenance services.